Hello out there, and today we're going to be taking a look at two knives from Lost Pine Supply Company. And what we have up top here is the Kaktos, and then down below is the Ilex. And we're also going to be doing a giveaway for both of these knives, so stay tuned till the end of the video to find out how you can get one of these two in your pocket. Now, these knives were sent to me by Lost Pines free of charge just for me to check out. And anytime that happens, like I've said before, guys, I try to get the knife into your hands, give it away. I don't keep it for, my own need or collection. And honestly, this doesn't happen very often where companies reach out to me. And when they do, I usually don't say yes. But in this case, the knives looked pretty interesting. They looked a little bit different with this topographic map kind of look to them. And the designs and the lines were appealing to me. So I said, why not? Let's give it a shot and see what these are all about. These are the first two knives from Lost Pine Supply Company. And to be honest, I have seen this design up here before. So I think this is one that a company called F and Grow has manufactured in some capacity, maybe different steel, obviously a different kind of trademark G10 than what this is right here. But I have seen this design. I don't know how that kind of stuff is copyrighted, subcontracted, trademarked, any of that stuff. So all I know is that what's right here in front of me is the Lost Pines version of this design. And there are some really cool aspects of both of these knives. The reason why I have them both in front of you and I'm not doing separate reviews is that just in using them, I found that everything I like about one, I tend to like about the other, and everything that I don't like about one, I also don't like about the other. So we're going to cover them together, and obviously there will be a design and line preference for you to choose which one you like more than the other, but I definitely prefer the Kaktos up top. The bottom one, it had appeal just because it sort of reminded me of a Polar with that cleaver style and something a little bit different with that big thumb groove at the top, which we'll get into. But let's get started with some size comparisons. I might have to move Lando out of the way for just a quick second because these do fill the frame pretty well, but they're really not all that big in terms of length. So you can see the PM2 up top, even though it's skewed a little bit with the perspective here, the PM2 is a significantly longer knife by about a little bit more than half an inch on both of them if we get them lined up, and also has a longer cutting edge. The cutting edge on the Ilex down here is around 2.75 and then right around 3 inches for the Kaktos. The bug out, if I can find where I put the bug out, right up here, is pretty comparable in terms of overall length. Maybe a little bit shorter overall, but I mean, that's sort of more of the comparison, and that's sort of going to show you what an EDC, like a standard EDC knife, is going to compare, how it's going to compare to these. The Super Freak, a much larger knife, also is much larger than both of these. But the dimension where it sort of changes and where you can sort of understand the robustness of these two is in the thickness. So let's see if we can get these stacked without knocking them all over. They are pretty darn thick knives. You can see thick liners on both of them, really thick liners here on the Ilex, and then the G10 as well. So it's going to fill the hand really well, both of these will, but there also will be an added, maybe negative when it comes to weight, which we will definitely get back to. All right, so starting with the blades on both of these, we are rocking with 8CR13 MOV steel, and we have a really nice, I think, stonewash on the flat on the Kaktos, and then a satin blade and a satin swedge, and then a full stonewash all the way across on the Ilex. I like the look. I like the overall lines, sure, of both of these. There are some imperfections just in the finishing here, which you probably are not going to be able to see on camera, but it isn't a flawless job, but it still is a pretty good looking knife, I think, in terms of the way it was done. These scratches were put on by me, but yeah, there are just a couple like inconsistencies in the stonewash that only if you look really close will you be able to tell. And for a budget knife, it really isn't a deal breaker for me when it comes to that. And we will talk about the budget of these later as well. One of the things that I really like for both of these is the way that they fit in hand. So they're super comfortable, just like I said, because of that thickness. They fill the hand. You don't have jimping on either of them, but this knife really isn't going to be going anywhere with the Kaktos. The Ilex, you do have that thumb like depression, a big depression if you're going to choke up really hard. I don't know if you're choking up really far. I don't really know. Maybe small detail kind of work with this, but in my use of it, which was somewhat limited just because I did not prefer this one, but in my use of it, I never really held the knife that way. It was always just back like this. So no real negative when it comes to that, unless you really just hate the look of that cutout in the lines of the knife. All right, so HCR, like we said, no jimping. I'd love to have a couple jimps, but yeah, I don't think it's all that detrimental with these knives. When we continue to move on back, let's take a look at the scales, and we're going to stick with some of the positive stuff first, and then we'll get to some of the detrimental stuff. Take a look at the scales, and when it comes to budget knives, what we see so often is just slapped on G10 or micarta, or even, yeah, micarta is becoming more affordable, but I don't know, there's so often just cookie cutter kind of looks when it comes to budget knives. You don't get a lot of options. It's just black or gray and maybe a couple other colors. And I really like how this is different. The topographic line is sort of like this pattern is a trademark of Lost Pines. So it's really neat that they were able to get their sort of character put into this knife. But let's get Lando back in here. But it's not going to be for everybody. Some people are going to look at this and be like, that's stupid looking. I don't want to carry a knife that looks like that. I completely understand, but from my perspective, it's something different when you get, even on great knives, just plain sort of G10, you know, great knives that it just sort of all look the same at a budget price. This is something at least a little bit different to differentiate it from the other stuff that it's going to be competing with. So I do like that. The G10 is a pretty decent medium traction. It feels good on the Kaktos up here. You have this groove that's pretty good for just getting your fingers in and, you know, extra points of contact. So like I said, ergonomically, this is a pretty good feeling knife. And even if you have larger hands, it's probably going to be pretty okay. All right, so let's take a look. Here are the liners and the lockup. The lockup on both of these knives is fantastic, super strong, as you can expect just from how thick the liners are. And that's going to lead us into what will most likely be the biggest negative and a deal breaker for a number of people. Yep. And now for me, you guys know, I'm not a huge stickler when it comes to a lot of stuff. When it comes to weight, I can carry a heavy knife and, you know, sometimes a heavy knife, and 4.31 actually for the Super Freak isn't heavy at all. But here, let's bring this one out. The 0393, 5 ounces, you know, I don't even feel it. I don't even notice that. And so when I do notice the weight when I'm carrying a knife, it tells me something. And the Ilex is 6.48 ounces. That's pretty darn heavy. And I think it's listed at 7 ounces. I'm not sure why, but it's 6.48 and then 6.15 on the Kaktos. Now, that in conjunction with the fact that it's just a bulky knife means that in the pocket, you're going to feel it. You're going to know that you're carrying a knife. That might turn a lot of people off. Some people might like that. If you're a fan of those real big overbuilt knives like Cold Steels and stuff like that, where they don't necessarily always pay attention to that, you know, then maybe it's going to be for you. For me, the Kaktos right here was okay to carry just because it's a little less thick, but the Ilex was sort of a deal breaker just in that. And you can see there's no machining with the interior, so there's no cutouts, nothing to do any kind of weight relief with this knife here, nothing on the Kaktos either, but it is just a little bit slimmer. The liners are a little bit slimmer. It is a little bit more pocket friendly, and I got used to carrying it no problem. But yeah, the Ilex, in terms of what I am looking for in a knife, was eliminated really just for that reason, because it just seemed, you know, there's too much other stuff out there for me to feel that in my pocket. I carry my phone in the same pocket as the knife, which I know a lot of people will say is stupid, but I've never really had an issue with it until, you know, I started carrying something quite as big and thick and bulky as this one is. So a detrimental thing, if you are looking to count ounces or just want something a little more thin and streamlined, these probably aren't going to be the ones for you. All right, when we take a look at the other aspects of the knife, usually when we move all the way to the back, we talk about the clips, but here we have tip down only clips. There is a good loop over, but it is just one position on these clips. They carry well, but you'd sort of expect them to just because they're so heavy. They're not going to go anywhere in your pocket. There is pretty good retention on both of them though. I don't love the clip, but again, it's just something that you deal with, and you get used to it if you choose to carry it. So again, not a terrible clip, but the positioning of it isn't where I would want it. And again, it's just one of those things. And I guess the big summary of these two knives is the choices that were made with the money that was allotted. And this is speculation, but my guess, and as we get into action, you'll start to get an understanding of where I'm going with this. But my guess is that with these two knives, they had to make them on a budget, and there were ways that they had to save money and places that they didn't want to save money. And so they definitely went with the G10 and got that to be their calling card, and they invested in something that was new and unique in terms of that. But when it comes to the clip and when it comes to the weight relief, it just wasn't there. Now, the inverse of that is one place where they did invest, and one thing that is really good on these knives, the lockup and the action.
And now for 30 plus seconds of uninterrupted, unadulterated Lost Pine Supply Company action. That was the Ilex. This is the Kaktos. All right.
Now they're heavy blades, so yeah, they're gonna have a tendency to drop shut maybe a little bit better than others. But the action on both of these is really good. So nice snappy deployment, and then drop shutty on the Kaktos. The Ilex as well. The Ilex, you do have that thumb hole as well to open with. So the detent is good. Spider flicking is good. So as far as the action goes and the fidget factor, it's a pretty good knife, but dang, it's dense. And you feel it holding it, that's for sure. So again, there's just a back and forth kind of compromise with these two, where you can see the efforts that were put into trying to make a knife the way they wanted to, and the ways that maybe corners had to be cut. Again, that's speculation, but when you're trying to create a product, there's always that give and take, and in order to keep it at a decent price point, you sort of have to make concessions sometimes. And so let's talk about the price point of these two knives. So these are both $34.99 on the Lost Pine Supply Company website. And when you factor in shipping, and I think shipping is like $5, then you're paying $40 for these. And honestly, even though I enjoyed using this one, I enjoyed the Kaktos, and I really like the shape of it, I really just don't see the value when it comes to comparing it to other stuff. There's just so much other value on the marketplace that $40 for these two, it just seems prohibitive in a lot of ways, especially if you're someone who cares about the steel. In this case, I really don't. As far as 8CR goes, I'll pay $40 for 8CR if all the other things I like about a knife are there, but they really weren't. Now that said, I saw on Amazon about a week ago, before posting this, that these were at $29.99 or $29 with free shipping. And still, the Ilex for me would be a no-go. But I think at $30, if you can find it for that, it would be a pretty decent investment if you like the other aspects of the knife to get the Kaktos. Now, a week later, I go back on Amazon right before filming this video, and they're $35 free shipping. So if you can find this sub $30, I'd recommend it. If not, I don't know, maybe hold back and look for something else. But at the end of the day, what I see is a company that's trying to get their name out there and trying to enter the world of knives. And this might be a really good knife for people who are already fans of Lost Pines, and are supporters of the company and want to get a pocket knife to sort of show that off. But if you're competing in the knife world, it's not there yet. It isn't, and I'm hoping that down the road they'll do something else and come out with more designs, because I think as far as the lines go, we have good pieces here, and good overall designs. and honestly, the execution of them is pretty good too. It's just a matter of getting the value and some of the other specifications more appealing to the mass community, which is the big opportunity here. So yeah, I mean, if you can find them, then and you really like it, I think you might be able to really enjoy the knife. But as they are, I mean, maybe if you're going to put one in a kit, like if I didn't already have a car knife, like a knife that I just leave in my car for all things, then this would probably be a really good one for it. But as an EDC knife that I'm going to use all the time, I don't know. I really don't know. And as like an outdoor kind of company, a lot of those outdoor companies are trying to go light with their stuff to make them like backpack friendly and stuff like that. And that just wouldn't work with either of these two knives. So again, I think there are some opportunities here for these to be improved. I'm really grateful to the people at Lost Pines for sending them my way and at least getting on my radar and hopefully getting on your radar so that we can keep an eye on them and see if they do something else in the future. And there could be value if you look at these and you see something that you like. You know, there might be people who are looking at these scales and saying, you want to know what? That's really cool. I want a knife that looks like that. There's nothing else out there like that. And so in that way, they've definitely set themselves apart from other things on the market. But I think the real nuts and bolts of it, you know, at its core, there are some things that need to be improved. Now, all that said, hopefully I didn't bury the knives to the point that no one wants to get on this giveaway, but here we are. We can give these knives away to two of you. So the way that it'll work is if you just comment down below, you can comment what I want you to do if you want to get in on the giveaway. First, be 18, right? Second, I'm not going to make this a requirement, but check out Lost Pines on Instagram. Throw them a follow. Do them a solid. I mean, they're helping the channel by doing this, so it's very cool of them to have sent them my way. So I appreciate that. If you want to support them, that would be great. But like I said, be 18, know your local knife laws, subscribe to my channel, and then comment in the comments, obviously, which of these two or both that you'd want to be entered for. And so we'll do two drawings, and if you want to be entered for both, just put Kaktos and Ilex, and yeah, I'll pick two in a few days time and get them out to you and hopefully spread the word. So again, these knives might not be for everybody. If you are someone who really likes them or someone who really doesn't, let me know your thoughts about them as well. Let me know if you think that I'm off the mark or on point with my evaluation as well. All right, one last thanks to Lost Pines for sending them. Again, guys, these will be headed your way, so let me know in the comments which one you're interested in. Any other questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below as well. All right, I really appreciate you watching. Thanks very much. Take care and have a good one.